to a well-designed business. My name is LuAnn Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, Vita. Thanks so much for joining me on Window Treatment Friday.
Oh, LuAnn, thank you so much for having me back again. I'm excited.
I am too. So I first have to say, the episode that we did, number 748, how many emails, DMs, and messages did you get about it? I mean, seriously, right?
So a lot more than I expected. I mean, I swear to God, Lou, we got off our recording and I'm like, oh my God, the people, I've confused them. I've used too much math. I think I used the word numerator and denominator a couple of times. Vita, what were you thinking? Your idea, your intention was to make it clear and understandable and break it down. And I think you've just totally confused people. So I was really pretty hard on myself after we got off the phone that time.
And there was no need for it, right? Because of all the episodes we've done, I have gotten more positive feedback on that, more feedback in general, and all of it positive. We recently did a lunch and learn at WindowWorks, which you drove all the way up for, and we had a woman who raised her hand, Sue Moran, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sue Moran. Yep. She raised her hand and she's like, look, I'm a numbers girl. I'm a finance person. And I listened to that episode 2 times, right?
Yeah, that was wonderful. I mean, that just so warmed my heart. And right next to me also was Renee Schleicher from the Fabric Shield. And she and her husband, Scott, who is also a financial person, he was like, wow, this is good stuff. So, you know, when you hear that kind of feedback from anyone, but specifically from people who actually do get this stuff and who like it as much as I do, and getting the props from them, you know, that certainly builds a bit of a confidence level there. So I was excited to hear it. And definitely, I think anyone who has not heard number 748 yet, who looked at the topic saying margins versus markup and said, hell no, I'm not listening to this. Please, you guys, yes, there's some math involved. And yes, I used a couple of math terminologies there, but it's a real good one, and it's a good basic. It teaches you the basics, and then I even give you the permission to learn it and then forget about it.
Right. Which is what I explained in that episode. I never actually technically learned it. Vinny knew it, learned it, understood it, and just told me what to do. And I was like, okay, I do this. This is how I price stuff. So, I mean, and like I said in that show, it's like, it's not that I don't, after, 35 years of selling window treatments, I didn't come to the understanding of it, but I do very much remember being 20, 21 years old and out selling window treatments and not having any true understanding or clarity on it, and it just didn't matter. It was like he set me down and said, this is the margins you will use, this is how you will mark it up, this is what's going on, just do this math, just do it this way. And I'm like, okay, I got this, right?
Yeah.
So, but
you're very lucky. I mean, to have someone like Vinny to really like set you on a clear path like that, so you don't have to wonder, you don't have to question yourself, you don't have to kind of like look over your shoulder and always be like, am I doing the right thing? Should I be multiplying it by something different? Is this enough? Is this too much? Is this too, like, just constantly questioning yourself, which is, I know, what designers do a lot when it comes to pricing in general, and especially pricing window treatments. So to have someone like Vinny to set you on the path without questioning yourself, that was a gift,
Oh,
Lou.
a
That was
hundred
great.
percent. And it is, it is the big aha reflection on the partnership between Vin, Bill, and myself. It's always been, I am a salesperson. You just put me in a direction. Tell me the stuff I'm supposed to sell. Tell me how I'm supposed to, price it, and I will come back with the dollar bills. That's what happens, right? And so
You're the quintessential salesperson. I
right.
love it.
And I mean, especially I'm 21 years old doing this. I mean, I didn't grow up with custom window treatments. We went to Two Guys for the curtains for $4 a panel. Like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And it just,
Yep.
but that is the point. When someone in your world does understand how what you sell a product at affects the financial health and viability of your business, that is what creates a sustainable business. And so, of course, that was always Vinny's role. That's what he did. That's what he knew. And that's why every business he's ever had has been successful, because he runs it from a numbers standpoint. And then you just, like I said, the unique, like, just gift of the universe is you have somebody like me that if I believe in the product I'm selling, get your checkbook out because you just don't even fight City Hall. You know what I mean? So,
I would be afraid to be on the other side of you, Lou. I'm like, I don't know what you're selling. Let me just buy it. Let me just, I know I'm going to walk away having whatever you're selling.
well, my greatest strength in it is really making the first of all, I have to believe that you need it and it's good for you. There's no smarmy car salesman here. I'm not just selling to sell, never, because that's the number one cardinal rule. It's you're already dead in the water. But once I actually take the time to have the conversations and I understand that this is a value for you, whatever it is, then the best thing is that by the end you're like, I have to have this. I'm like, I know you do. Of course you do. Anyway, so we're following up to that episode, and to Vita's point, like, definitely listen to it. It really did break things down in a way that made it digestible and understandable, regardless of her fear that it wasn't. It was, and we got enough feedback on it that it was. And so today, though, we're going to talk about, now that you understand the difference of margins and markup and net profit and gross profit and all of the things, now we're going to talk about how to price window treatments to the end consumer. Whether you are an interior designer or you're a window treatment specialist. We're not talking, like you've made clear to tell me, Vita, that we're not talking about a workroom that makes window treatments about how they should price. We're talking about from that person on. So I buy from a workroom.
Right. And also,
go ahead.
right. And also specifically not from like a big commercial workroom standpoint.
Right.
So there's so many different workrooms out there, and even different business models within the workroom community. And if you are a one person or a couple of people type of workroom, luxury, and really providing very high-end product and high-end service, then yes, this episode may be for you.
Right.
But I wanted to make a distinction that this is not for your just like basic commercial track workrooms that do a single width panel for $20, that kind of thing.
No.
So
I don't think they're listening anyway, Vita. Not sure. They're probably too busy right now. They got 4,000 orders in this month.
This episode is really for interior designers that are wondering and questioning what they should be pricing their window treatment projects at to their clients, and also for people like myself and you, Lou, who have either a retail window treatment shop or a shop at home window treatment business and working directly with the consumer.
Right.
And the genesis of the idea actually came from none other but Sarah Lynn Brennan. I have to tell you, I reached out to her a couple of months ago, and as I was thinking about the content for this year 2022 for our WTF series, and I said, hey Sarah, can you kind of talk me through some of your pain points from the standpoint of an interior designer? Because sometimes, I don't know about you, Lou, but it's hard for me. Window treatments are so innate to me. I know them so well. Sometimes it's hard to know what is a challenge and what is a question, because it's so obvious to me because I've been doing it for so long. So I reached out to Sarah. I'm like, talk me through your pain points. What is challenging for you? What is giving you agita? All of those things. And so she came back with some really great ideas for us, even for future episodes. But one of them was that this whole pricing thing, and her particular kind of complaint and gripe, if I understood her, was that there really isn't like a one set price as to what, let's say, a pair of drapes should be sold for. Mm-hmm. Like there's no an MSRP. And her point was, it's like if I go into, let's say, a Kravitz showroom and I see a particular sofa, I see that this particular sofa it has an MSRP of $5,000. Like, fine, I have my cost for it. They give me my trade discount, say, and I know that I can sell it to the customer for at least $5,000. Or if it's a different sofa, it could be $7,000 or $10,000. She's like, for window treatments, there really isn't such a thing. There's a million workrooms. There's a million ways of doing things. There's a million variables. And it's like, as a designer, I don't think she used those words, but I think that's how I interpreted them, that you kind of feel kind of left a little bit high and dry, kind of like not knowing even not exactly, forget exactly, but even having a guideline of where to price these things. Right. Like, should they be $1,000 or should they be like $5,000, or is 5,000 too egregious and they really should be $2,500? So it's just really hard a lot of times for designers who don't have a lot of experience, specifically for seasoned designers, maybe not so much, but for those that are not as experienced, to know what is like reasonable pricing for window treatments. We know that they're a lot, we know that they're expensive, but what does it really mean? How does it translate to the actual dollar and cents?
Right. And I'm glad, because this is the quagmire, right? So, because all the things you just said, no MSRP, all the things. So what happens now? So what is your answer to Sarah Lynn Brennan and all the designers that are like, yeah, so thanks for all that complication. How do we price it? Thanks for telling us it's really hard.
Well, I think acknowledging that it's hard, that's part of the conversation, and saying that, yes, there is no MSRP like oftentimes there is in, say, the lighting world or the furniture world. Not having the MSRP, however, can also be viewed as a positive thing, I think, LuAnn, too.
Oh, I agree.
Because it gives you the freedom to do whatever you want.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I know designers thinking right now, I know I want to do whatever I want, but if I give them $5,000 and they look at me like I have 5 heads, like, I don't want to be in that position either.
Right. Well,
so
what it is it's the very nature of all the reasons why it's hard is because of all the complication and all the variables. That's why it's hard to price, but that's also exactly why it is a good thing, because it's not shoppable. It's not just one sofa with this fabric and these legs and these nail heads, compare price. It's very hard to do apples and apples, at least when we're considering soft treatments. However, to your point, and where you're going with this, is an idea, a gauge on what to think and how to think about pricing window treatments is helpful for an interior designer when they're just gathering budget, right?
Exactly. And so I looked at my templates and how Vitalia Inc. is pricing custom window treatments. And I wrote down my numbers. And then I thought to myself, and this was all in preparation for our episode today, I thought to myself, okay, but these are my numbers. Let me see what other companies like myself are doing. So I actually reached out to some friends and colleagues in the industry. I talked to Jill Ballou from High Country Drapery Design. I talked to Margot Jagger, who is the co-owner of Wilson Road. She's in British Columbia, Canada, and Jill is in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I also talked to Nikki Greenwood, who is the owner of Savannah Window Fashions. And so, interestingly, our pricing came up to about 10 to 20% of each other. And I was actually pleasantly surprised about that, because I initially thought that it would be a lot different, because in addition to all the variables that window treatments innately have in them because of the custom nature, there's also another variable, and that is of geography. Just by nature of me being in the Northeast, you're being in the Northeast, and somebody else being in California or in Texas or in Chicago or anywhere else in the country, that alone introduces certain pricing variation. And so 10 to 20% difference between all of us. And here are very general pricing guidelines that I would love to share with our friends listening.
Okay.
Okay. So I usually look at window treatments in layers. So the first layer is a very simple and very functional type of window treatment. Think of those as 2-inch faux wood blind, or a roller shade, a woven wood shade, or something of that nature that simply gives you privacy. It controls the light, it controls the glare. Another word that we often use is it provides functionality for your windows. It doesn't necessarily give you a lot of pretty, doesn't necessarily give you a lot of aesthetic, but it certainly gives you the functionality. And so the price range for those types of products for a single window, and a single window I'm defining as something like a 36 by 70, say, that price range is between $350 and $750. Would you agree, Lou?
Yes, we're talking
That
what the
would be in
price.
WindoWorks?
Yeah, and I just want to, reiterate, we're talking of the price to the consumer, number one. So this isn't what we're buying it at. And secondly, this isn't just as a disclaimer. This isn't going to be every single window treatment. And we're going to go to your 80-20 rule on things, Vita, that we come up with generalities that are going to be correct and appropriate 80% of the time and 20%. So, for example, if we were to look at a Hunter Douglas, silhouette, this is probably not going to be at 36 by 70 is not going to be $750. This could be $1,300, $1,400, right? But you named roller shades, woven wood shades, faux wood blinds, 2-inch regular wood blinds. There's half a dozen products that $350 to $750 is accurate. There's 80% of the products in hard treatments that it's accurate for, and 20% you could say, I'm sorry, a silhouette's going to be more. Sunette is going to be more.
Of course.
We know. So just I'm doing the disclaimer.
We know. Guys.
Yep.
Yes, and thank you for the disclaimer. And I feel like we're going to be adding and kind of reminding people of that disclaimer. This is not every single product. This is just a general idea.
Right.
Now, why do we want to give you this general idea? Let me actually step back for a second. And that is so that you guys as designers and as window treatment professionals, so the people that work directly with the consumer, you go into their houses, you go into their spaces. And I believe that your highest chance of success, meaning your highest chance of getting an order, is if you can ballpark their investment on that first visit and together with them. Not when you have to measure, not when you have to go back to the office and put together a detailed estimate, investing your time into it. It is at that probably first appointment, maybe second for some interior designers, depending on what their intake process is. But usually in the beginning of your relationship with your customer, you do a walkthrough through the space and you give them about ballpark an idea of what their total budget will be. So if you're an interior designer, you want to get in the position where you're comfortable ballparking window treatments as part of your entire process of ballparking the whole window, the whole interior design project in the space. If you are a window treatment professional, get comfortable in ballparking just the window treatments, because that's just your wheelhouse.
Right.
But so the idea is, the reason we're giving you these general guidelines is so that you can walk into Mrs. Mary Smith, you have a conversation, you establish a relationship, you have the back and forth dialogue, and you can look around her room, her windows, and say, we're looking at approximately between $3,000 and $4,000 investment in your window treatments. Does that align with your budget?
Right.
Or if you're an interior designer, you can plug in that $3,000 to $4,000 into an overall big budget that includes all the other line items.
Right.
And give her the overall budget.
Yeah.
But so the whole point is that you don't have to go through line by line and width by length every single window and every single variable and spec for every type of window treatment imaginable to arrive at a number. The idea is that you are on the spot, comfortably and confidently can give a ballpark budget idea.
Right. And I want to say that this is so critical. Like if we teach this at Exciting Windows, the 7-step sales, process that was developed by Exciting Windows, Steve Burston, and Jessica Harling teaches it at LuAnn University. It is literally one of the most critical components that you can ballpark on the fly. Just like we had the episode with Terry Taylor on this podcast where she explained how to ballpark an entire investment range for a room on the fly on your discovery visit, your consultation visit, because I know that designers are frustrated when consumers say, I don't know what my budget is. And they say, well, I'm supposed to do 16 hours of legwork to put together what something's going to cost. And then they say, oh, no, this came out to $70,000. I thought it was going to be 25. And this is how you avoid that. You don't have to reach out to your window treatment professional and say, here's my exact fabric. Here, to go and get the exact window, measurements. You can just use this as a guide for that initial, are we going to do business together, Mrs. Sally Smith, right?
Exactly.
Right. If this is not, here's my actual proposal, when you have a contract and you do an actual proposal that you want money on, then you need to do hard numbers. But just that discovery phase of this is the overall investment and this is how you figure out your budget for window treatments within that fully executed investment of the rug, the sofa, the blah blah blah,
all the things.
Yep.
Yeah. It's really about how much time and effort do you want to dedicate to a prospect while that person is still a prospect. He or she is not your client yet.
Right.
Yes, of course. Well, once you've gotten the money, once you're at a point where you're about to get the money because you know that you are in general in the same vicinity
right.
in terms of the budget, then yes, of course, do all the things and cross all the T's and dot all the I's and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But while in that preliminary stage of him or her just being a prospect, you want to get on that same financial page as soon as possible. And that is what these general pricing guidelines are meant to do.
Right. Okay. So now let's go back, because we did the first guideline, which is a simple hard treatment, single window, $350 to $750. And then your second level is, go ahead.
The second level is a fabric Roman shade for a single window. And in that category, I think, Lou, we can also include like a Hunter Douglas silhouette too, because they're much more expensive.
The pirouettes, the silhouettes.
Exactly. Like a fancier, more elegant, more luxurious, more upscale type of window treatments. For interior designers, if any of this terminology kind of went over your head, you guys, everything that LuAnn just rattled off, a lot of those are Hunter Douglas products, and those are just the trademark names that they've created. And there are fancy names for the types of window treatments, and some of them at their bases are a Roman shade. Some, not all. But a lot of designers do know what a fabric Roman shade is, and a lot of Roman shades are being spec'd out for us right now in the Northeast. I'm sure, LuAnn, for you as well.
Like chiclets.
Yeah.
Let me take 10 more Roman shades, 5 more Roman shades. The other thing I would say that goes into this investment range of 1,100 to 13, and I might stretch it personally 11 to 1,500 if I were suggesting somebody use it as a budget, is I would probably put wood shutters in this category.
Yep, agree, 100%. Yep. Okay, so our first layer for very simple hard treatments, that was 350 to 750. Our second level, I should say, is Roman shade and silhouettes and shutters is between, let's say between 1,000 and 1,500, just to kind of keep it round numbers. Okay. Yep. And then our next level of custom window treatment would be draperies. So this is where we get into, I want to say trouble, but this is where we get into the weeds a lot of times, because even as I reached out to these colleagues of mine and asked them what their general pricing is, some of them came back to me and said, well, do you mean one width of material or two widths of material? Do you mean a reeded rod or this kind of rod? And what kind of fullness and what kind of lining and what kind of this and what kind of that? And what I said back to them, the point that I want to make now for all of our friends listening is that let's not actually, specifically for my workrooms, let's not get into like too much of the specifics here. And yes, of course, I acknowledge that one width of material will be less than two widths of material, and a high-end rod will be much more than a lower-end rod. Of course I do. But let's just arrive at kind of a general average price that we can use, again, as that guideline for our end consumer. And so that guideline for me and the colleagues that I've reached out to within just small percentage variation is between $2,000 and $3,000. So we're talking a pair of drapery, average fabric, average rod, installed, fabric included. So fabric, it's all, lining. By the way, all of everything, the whole thing. Yep. So it's like we don't want to come to a consumer and say, well, it's $2,000, but this is extra, and then this is extra, and do all the kind of stuff. So not at the point where we're trying to give them the overall budget. Right. So that's that third layer of treatment of custom drapery treatment, and then Nikki Greenwood from Savannah, she's like, well, down south here, we like our stuff fancy. And I said to her, Nikki, oh my gosh, I want to do fancy in the Northeast too. I've been advocating and lobbying for Swags and Cascades to come back. Oh gosh. I want them to come back, LuAnn. It's such good business. I love them because they were so easy to measure. I mean, you had to really be asleep at the wheel to make a mistake on a measure for Swags and Jabos if that couldn't be fixed. You know what I'm saying? It was like Yep. So Nikki reminded me, and this goes true for a lot of our friends in Texas, most likely, and probably many other states, maybe not so much in the coastal world, but definitely in the middle of the country and down south. So designers, if you are specifying Swags and Cascades and Jabots and super fancy and beautiful traditional stuff, then for a single window, your to the consumer ballpark budget would be in the neighborhood of around $5,000. So you can make it from $5,000 to $7,000. Again, depending how elaborate and fancy and all that you want to make it. I'm just going to goopy. And the thing that I like about this is if you are taking notes and you're saying, okay, I need a roller shade, I need a faux wood blind, I need something on the window. So 350 to 750. If I need, and I really think in some of the spaces I want a decorative Roman shade, or some of the windows I'm going to want the silhouette, or I'm going to want a shutter. Okay, 1,000 to 15. And then some of the windows I'm going to want a pair of stationary drapes and decent looking rod, good fabric, 2,000 to 3,000. Or I'm going to want it with a valance, whether it's Swags, it's a tailored box pleat, it's a cornice, whatever. Okay, so we're going to go to 5 to 7. The idea is that it's the concept is
that it's very similar to your low, middle, high. So when somebody looks at, and you're talking with a client about an investment for a room, and they're showing you a room, and the room has got, a beautiful area rug, and it's got lighting, and it's got all the different layers, and they say, oh, I want to do a room for 40 grand. And you're like, that's $100,000 room. But here's what a $70,000 room looks like, and here's what a $40,000 room looks like. And it's the same thing, whether you do it by photograph or you do it by conversation, but you are accustomed as a designer to the low, middle, high, or the good, better, best, or whatever words you use to describe it. But you have developed that pattern and that ability to know what goes into a room that, let's call a family room, that is going to cost 25,000, 50,000, or 100,000. And that's the same thing with this. So if you take Vita's numbers and you just go, okay, 350, 550, 750, 1100, 1000, 1250, 1500, 2000, 3000, 4000, and you add them in columns, low, middle, high. You can do the same thing when you go your low, middle, high budget for the room. You're like, okay, and on this level for window treatments, for the good, better, best, the good, we're talking about this, better, we're talking about that, best, we're talking about that. And that's how you use this, so that you can accurately come up with investment ranges on the initial phone call, discovery call, whatever, before you run in circles. Start like looking at every window treatment catalog in your window treatment space and going, should it be that silhouette with that pattern, or that pirouette with this, or should it be a Roman? No, you don't spin your wheels that way, right, Vita? This is how we use this, right?
100%, and that's the reason why I wanted to have this episode, is because I don't want our designers or the window treatment folks to spend any more time that is absolutely necessary to come up with the best viable product. There's this concept, best viable product, in a lot of industries, and so to apply it to our industry here, our best viable product is our best guesstimate on the price. And before, like you said, you run around in circles trying to figure out all the fabrics and all the lift system and how much the board will protrude into the room, and whether it's going to go inside or outside, and how long the cord should be, and should we do it cordless, or should we do it this way or the other way. And again, there's a million different variables that go into window treatments. Before you guys spend any of that time, you want to look at that, let's say, family room, and let's say there are 4 windows, and as a designer or a window treatment pro, that the best thing for that room would be to do 4 roller shades to give them privacy and glare control on their TV, and to do 4 pairs of decorative drapes, stationary on decorative rods. So you can say, okay, I have 4 roller shades based on Vita's pricing here. Let's take $500. Okay, 4 times 500, that's 2,000. And then I have 4 pairs of stationary drapes on decorative hardware. Let's say her price here is 2 to 3. Let's just take 2,500. 2,500 times 4, that's 10,000. So 10,000 of draperies plus 2,000 of roller shades. There's your $12,000 budget.
Right.
And to the consumer, you can say, we are between 11,000 and 13,000. Or you can say, I think we can look at this room and do something decent starting at around $11,000, and then let's see what additional elements we want to add to it.
Right.
So just like that, just like in the 2 minutes that I just did this, you guys have the ability, the power. We're empowering you here to walk into that family room, and without pulling a calculator, pulling a single piece of paper, pulling out your tape measure or any of your sample books, get to the same page with that consumer.
Right.
If she is like, wow, $11,000, I was thinking this was going to be $1,100.
Right.
clearly you are in the wrong ballpark. You should
Let
not.
me recommend you to the nearest Home Depot.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
No, but that's what it is. And that's how we've sold all the years that we're in business. It's like you have an informed conversation with your consumer, and you're just able to, at the top of your head, to be able to throw some numbers around in ballpark. And I've been there and I've done that. And somebody's saying, oh, my friend has, Roman shades and I want Roman shades. And I'm not going to, my next sentence is, well, do you know that they're an average of $1,000 to $1,400 per window? No, but you know it in the back
Yeah.
of your mind. And so you just continue, why do you like Roman shades? Or, blah, blah, blah. What did you like about them? Do you have a picture of the one? How many times has somebody said they like a thing, call it by a name, and you see the picture, you're like, that's not what that is. Okay, let's
All the time.
Right, exactly, right. So you got to do, and the thing is, while you're doing all of these questions and you're having all of this conversation, you're building a rapport with the person. You're building trust with the person because you're interested and you're having the thing. And there's a moment that you will know that it's right, that you come in and you say, this sounds really terrific. I love the idea of doing the Roman shades here. Have you ever ordered Roman shades before? Have you ever priced them before? Somebody be like, yeah, I did all my bedrooms upstairs. Awesome. But where did you do them? Right? Did you do them at Blinds to Go, or did you do them with you don't say that. You're like, oh, who did them for you? Oh, my designer did them. Oh, I went to this retailer. Okay, you know your world. Are they in your lane? Great. Are they not in your lane? So the idea is we're taking information and we're sharing information all the way along, but in the back of our mind, we've already done this calculation, and we've already know that when the moment is right, we're going to say, this sounds terrific. So love the idea. This is it. What kind of fabrics? I think we should be looking at these kinds of things. Did you have anything in mind? And then you say, so when we, end up getting everything together on this, for these 3 windows in this room, we're probably going to be somewhere between $4,000 and $7,000 for, the roller shades and the Roman shades. Does that sound great? Does that sound good? And if that's the moment when they're like, oh, I thought it would be, 1,000, we're 20 minutes into this conversation, not 3 hours. You know what I'm saying? We're not 2 days and 16 vendors and looking at fabrics and calling our people to get exact prices. And that's when, at that moment, you regroup. I know I regroup. Oh, okay. Because it's still not throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's not like, that's it, hands in the air, I'm out. It's like, well, what? Because just because she thought it was 1,000 and it's really 6 doesn't mean she can't or he won't spend 6. They just might need a little education. But if they're really only going to spend 1,000, guess what? You can go back to that $350 wood blind. Well, in that investment range, we'd probably be looking at wood blinds. How do you feel about wood blinds? Right? So it's a whole thing, but it starts with what Vita's talking about, which is knowing how to pull it out in the conversation when it's appropriate, as opposed to having this whole big exciting thing, getting everybody all excited, you going back, doing all this work, and then coming back with the pricing and them saying, oh, that's not what I thought. And especially if that's not happening in the house, you're way at a disadvantage. Right? If it's just like, it's so hard to regroup on the phone, right? You want to regroup in the house and see the face and the body language and all the things.
Exactly. Right. If your process calls for you to give the customer that initial pricing education during your first appointment, then I agree, LuAnn, 100%. You don't want to have spent all that time with her, have developed some kind of relationship, let's say for 20 minutes or an hour, have taken measurements, have looked at fabrics, have discussed lift systems and all this stuff, then driven home, then put together the estimate, then sent it over in an email, and then get completely ghosted by that client, wondering, did I do something wrong? Was the price too much? Did she hate me? Did I have toilet paper on the back of my shoe the entire time and she thought I was a freak? Like, what is it? Why is she not responding? Why am I being ghosted? So so what I wanted to share, there are 2 strategies that I started using actually recently, believe it or not. I've been in business 17 years. I probably should have come up with them more early in my career, but we live and learn. We continuously evolve.
Exactly.
And so here are the 2 tools that I wanted to share with you guys. And if you already have them, wonderful. You're way smarter than me. If you don't have them, then I'm so glad that I can share these with you and you guys can put yours together. Okay, the first tool that we're doing is we and it has to do with working on your business rather than in your business. This would be that quintessential, you have to spend time and be the CEO of your business and really understand financials and numbers and analyze your business. So what I've done is I went back and analyzed the business of my top designers.
Mm.
I think I picked the top 5.
Mm.
Depending on what those top numbers look for you guys, you may, if they're those numbers are not too far apart, maybe 5 is enough. But if, let's say, your top 10 designers are the difference between, let's say, 300,000 in business versus, let's say, 30,000 in business. So you essentially, what I'm saying is, you pick your top clients. So for designers listening to me, those will be your end clients. For window treatment specialists, those would be your end clients. For window treatment people that work with interior designers, that would be your interior designers, your clients. So you pick your top clients and you analyze their business to figure out the average pricing from previous year's projects.
Mm.
So, for example, I'm looking right now at this one analysis that I did for a designer of ours. And I see I have the name of the customer in the first column. Then I have the total that customer spent. And then in the third column, I have the number of blinds and shades that they have. And then in the fourth column, I have the soft treatments that they've done, the number of soft treatments. And then the last column, I have anything else that they might have done. So let's say cushions or pillows or bedding or things like that. So let's say the first customer is Mary Smith, and she spent $26,000 on window treatments. So this designer of mine would know what Mary Smith bought, or she remembers. She may not know exactly that she has bought 22 blinds from us and 4 types of soft treatments and some cushions and pillows. But in general, she remembers what Mary Smith's house was like.
Right.
So part of the reason that I did this analysis is, number one, for me, so that I know what a total house of window treatments is like, but also then I gave this information to my designer so that next time she goes to a house that is similar to the Mary Smith's house, who's looking for similar type of window treatments, she can refer back to the analysis that I gave her and say, okay, this is going to be in the neighborhood of $26,000.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is, we as workrooms or as window treatment professionals who work with interior designers, we can actually help our interior designers even to be that much better informed and equipped when they go to their end customer. And if you're interior designer listening to me now, if you don't have that level of support, then you would have to do that analysis on your own and figure out that Mary Smith spent about $26,000 and she's done this many blinds and shades and this many types of soft treatments. And that will make you so much more confident and comfortable and just feeling really well equipped next time you do a house that is similar to Mary Smith.
Well, and what I love about this too, Vita, is that, you know, I'm sure you find it the same as we do. Designers tend to specify very similar window treatments project to project to project.
Yes.
We have designer, like you said, Roman shades. Roman shades are, the mainstay of almost every single interior design project we do right now. And so, one designer will randomly have fully operable blackout draperies with a cornice over top of Roman shades in, say, a primary bedroom. But I would tell you again the 80-20 rule. If you're out there as a designer and you're thinking to yourself, if you just take your last, like to Vita's point, last year's window treatment projects, you can pull that out of your own budget. You can say that on the Smith job it was $20,000, on the Jones job it was $8,000, on the this job it was that $1,000. But I'll bet you 80% of the time you're using the same drapery hardware, you're using very similar fabric grades. you're using the same exact styles, Roman shades with stationary panels or without panels or whatever. You're using roller shades motorized or whatever it is. And the thing is, you're again looking for the 80/20. So same as you would say, I know what my average kitchen costs when I do a kitchen remodel in my design aesthetic with the things that I feel are important in a kitchen.
That's
My
right.
average kitchen is 100 grand. Okay, my average window
That's right.
treatment budget is XYZ. So it's literally taking again what you do already and extrapolating it out to window treatments so that you can be
Exactly. Yeah, I
knowledgeable. Hmm.
I I definitely agree with you that designers have certain aesthetic. They tend to gravitate towards the same thing. And even though you guys, we're not trying to put you down in any way that there is not enough creativity or that you
No,
don't want to go outside the box. Of course not. Of course not. It's just that we like what we like, and our aesthetic is our aesthetic. And if we know that this particular pattern woven wood looks really good in a shore house, then that's the pattern that we're going to be putting
right.
because we know that it looks good.
Right, exactly,
So,
exactly.
so yeah, there's definitely a certain type of hardware that we gravitate towards, a certain type of treatments that we gravitate towards. I mean, I have designers that love a certain pattern of roller shades, and they're going to specify that pattern of roller shade because it just works for everything else that they usually do. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, but looking at previous historical data, historic projects, they can definitely know what a similar project would be like going forward.
Right.
Okay, so that's one helpful tool that we started doing for ourselves and for our designers. And then the second tool is, again, I did not invent it. I did not create it. Has been around for many years, but somehow I didn't do it before. And that is creating pictorial presentations of the uh, of the how do I say of the window treatments that represent certain budgets.
Right.
So for example, let's say let's go back to my example of the family room with four windows. And I said that we're going to do four roller shades with four pairs of stationary drapes. So this is where a little bit of those variations can come into place. You can do a very basic roller shade, and let's say that's it. You can show them a picture of four roller shades, and you can say the budget for this project. I did, Mrs. Smith, you're with the customer right now. You say, Mrs. Smith, I did this project last year, and this customer paid around $2,700 for this for
Mm.
these four shades installed, done, project managed, all completely done. So this was this budget. Then you can show the next picture, and you can, let's say, for example, have not the four panels like I did in my previous example. Maybe there is only one panel per window. You know how there's like outer
Yep.
panels, let's say, all the windows that flank the fireplace, and maybe there are other windows, and you can kind of do just one panel per window. Personally, not my favorite, but sometimes it works for aesthetic reasons, for budget reasons, for many other reasons. You can pull out a picture that looks like that, and you can say the customer paid around $7,000 for this look. If you like this look, this is about your budget to expect.
Right.
And then as a third step, you can pull out the picture of the four windows in the family room with roller shades with a pair of drapes on every window, just like that original example. And you can say the client here spent $14,000 on this
Right.
on this level of custom window treatments. Which level do you prefer?
Right.
And so all of a sudden, you know what I love about this approach, and I can't believe I haven't done it up until now, is just like beyond me why it's taken me 17 years. But what I love about this, LuAnn, is the conversation is no longer about the money, or at least it's no longer only about the money. It's about what they like.
And it's
It's
the
about
value
what
that
they
they're getting.
prefer. It's
Yeah.
about what the whole room will look like, how they will feel in that room. So it's like it's not about spending $4,000 or $2,000 on roller shades that they don't like anyway, but oh my God, $2,000, that's so much money. All of a sudden it's about, okay, so if I'm going to get what I really love, what I really value, the kind of look that I'm going for here in my new family room, then my budget needs to be around $14,000.
Right.
It's like it's that switch, the conversation, the dialogue, or the monologue, at least in their head, switches all of a sudden. So I really like this pictorial approach. And you know what reminded me of it is I listened to a podcast of yours with a designer whose name I don't remember. I'm sorry, but she used this very exact strategy to describe the different levels of, let's say, bathroom design and
Right.
kitchen design
Yep.
to their customers.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. These are principles that designers are using already. And just hopefully we're just, putting a little bug in their ear that they can use the same thing that they're accustomed to using when it comes to window treatments. And, the thing about it is it's just like when you go to, you're going to get a new MacBook, a laptop. What happens? You love that Apple. You go to the site and it's like, here's this, I don't know the different names, MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, whatever the hell they're all called, right? But it's like, there it is. There's the title and there's all the check marks that come with it. Then there's the next row and there's all the check marks and and you literally just look at it and say, those extra 4 things in that third column, I either have to have 2 of 4 of them and I only get them if I go to this column, or I don't need them. And therefore, it's not a tug and a pull. It's like, here's the menu, lady, pick it, right? And so then our creativity comes in afterwards as a window treatment specialist or an interior designer with it's not a MacBook Pro at that point, right? But the conversation jumps off on exactly just the base level of, and with the pictures, to your point, it's 10 minutes ago, we're talking about just the dollar investment range and being able to describe it. But when you can show it in pictures, because the person who says, oh, never mind, just roller shades are good for me, when they see the picture, they're like, oh, well, maybe they are and maybe they're not. Because in some rooms, they're going to be outstanding. High-rise apartment in New York City all day long. Just roller shades are fabulous. Your little, girl's bedroom with, pink ponies and princesses all over, maybe you need a little bit of drapes there too. You know what I mean? So it just makes it very clear. I have to say, I love this. I love all of this, Vita, and I love that you brought it to our attention, how a mechanism, a pricing model, a pricing strategy that's already known and in practice to an interior designer. Literally, we just transfer this information over and we bring it to the window treatment portion of the project. And I think it just makes it, the way you've described it, gives it such clarity. And what I know is your next thing for us is we're now going to talk about in the next part of the series, what designers should actually be making on window treatment. So we've taught you markup and margin, markup, multiplier. Exactly. We've taught you that. Now we've taught you how to ballpark on the fly, basically investment ranges, and so you can have an intelligent conversation without too much work on your hand. And next, Vita is actually going to dive in with us on what you should be making on window treatment projects. So I'm really looking forward to that, Vita. I have to say, that's going to be fun.
That's really where the rubber meets the road, right?
That's
okay, 2,000, 10,000, but what am I making on this? What am I taking home?
Right. It's the truth because in the broad sense, we've been talking about what the consumer's investment is. We haven't talked about what the designer can expect to make on this investment and how they price it in order to make a minimum amount of money for the to be viable for them to include window treatments. And that we're going to pick apart the next time, right?
Looking forward to that. Yes.
Oh, my goodness. I love it. Thank you so much, Vita, for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, as always. Really appreciate being your co-pilot here, LuAnn. Thank you.
How smart of Vita to reach out to interior designer Sarah Lynn Brennan to learn about her specific pain points. I love that. And of course, Sarah mentioned a very typical pain point. There is no MSRP for window treatments, right? Not for the complicated custom ones that you put in your interior design projects. No, right? And as Vita mentioned, like our sponsor Kravit, you can build a sofa with your Kravit account when you have your designer account. You can put the arms on, you can put the nail heads on, you can put the fabric on, and you can come come up with a retail price. You get your trade discount, you know what it is, you're off to the races. But for window treatments, it's different. There are a million different variables that make it challenging to determine the price. And that's why Vita's formula is killer. I love it. I can't tell you how critical it is to be able to ballpark on the fly. In fact, we talked about it just the other day on Tuesday's episode with Jessica Harling, right? The exciting Windows 7-step sales process. One of the steps is ballpark pricing. And Jessica is teaching this at LuAnn University. So if you really like this idea, it's an entire step in the 7-step process that you can learn there. All right. And you know how important this is if you've ever done this. And I know probably every single one of you listening has done this. Gotten the quote from the window treatment person, taken the time, to put all the details out, pick the trim, pick the lining, pick the pleats, wait for the price, present the price, and they're like, you got to be kidding me with this price, right? So that is the whole point of sidestepping that process. And I love that Vita had 2 other suggestions that are helpful with understanding ballpark pricing for window treatments. The first is to analyze the average pricing of your last year's top window treatment projects. Okay. So this way, when you go on a consultation, you can recall it to mind and say, and the last time I did like 4 pairs of draperies, XYZ, it was yada, yada. And then you can ballpark it, right? And the second thing that Vita talked about is creating that pictorial presentation of window treatments that represent the various investment ranges. You do this already with your interior projects. Having another few slides or images in your iPad or whatever you use that is window treatment specific is a great, great idea. All right. Now, keep in mind, if you need to get the back end of your window treatment business on lockdown, Vita is teaching systems-driven operations at LU University this semester. I can't even, I'm not even going to bother telling you how amazing he is. You know how amazing Vita is. You know how locked down she is. You know how system driven she is. That's it. That's all I have to say. Registration is open now and classes start the week of April 17th, 2022. Go to LuAnnUniversity.com to learn more. All righty, Vita, thank you so much for teaching us an intelligent way to ballpark window treatments. And thank you for listening. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of LuAnn Niagara, Inc. If you'd like to know more about me, my books, or LuAnn University, go to LuAnnNiagara.com. And if you want to learn more about exciting windows where you can get education and resources to build a better window treatment business, go to excitingwindows.biz. Have an excellent day.